Hey everyone, and welcome to Crafted by a Queen. Today we're going to be doing a very beginner-friendly painting. We're going to be doing a fall vibe, autumn sunset with some birds on some branches. So this one should be easy for all levels of experience of painters, whether you've never painted before or if you've painted multiple times. This painting is going to be very friendly to us. So first, let's go over our supplies. I'm using an 11 by 14 canvas. It's the thin version. You don't have to use this size. You can do the 16 by 20. And then for brushes, I'm going to be using some of these brushes. So I have a big brush, medium brush, small brush, and then these two I'll be referring to as baby brushes. I don't know which one I'll be using it. If you only have one, that's fine. What we're going to be doing isn't going to require a lot of detailing. And then, so when you aren't using it, just stick them in your handy dandy water jar. Remember not to drink that, guys. This is my little doodle here for the birds, for some basic shapes so you can freehand them. We're going to be using just 4 colors of paint. We're going to be using white, black, red, and yellow. I'm using bright yellow and bright red. That's all I could find in my local craft store, so that's what I decided to use. So let's go ahead, oh, and you need paper towels for drying off your brushes. So let's go ahead and just talk about what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing a fall sunset with some birds on branches with some leaves. So I thought this was very pretty. I saw some other similar images and I was like, you know what, let me try to do this my own way. So we're going to first set up with the sunset. We're going to do a light to darker, and then the branches and birds will be black over top. So let's go ahead and get some white and yellow onto our plate on your palette here. You don't have to do super fancy. Paper plate will work just fine, but whatever you have on hand will be fine. You can use cardboard, whatever you want. So I'm just getting some nice size globs on my plate here. That's my white's drying out. I'll have to get a new one soon. It's almost empty. And I'm just gonna start off with those 3 colors for now. Since I'm using a smaller size canvas, I'm gonna be using that medium size brush that I have. If you want the size dimension, it says 3/4 or 19 millimeters. So I'm gonna dry that off real good. And I'm gonna have the sunset kind of coming from the side. So I'm going to start off with kind of a butter yellow. So that just means I'm going to get some white and some yellow and make a really soft, light colored yellow. And I'm gonna figure out where I want my sun to be, how much of a sun I want to show. So I'm thinking about that big. I don't want the whole sun present, so that way I can shade out to those other colors. So I'm just gonna go a little bit bigger than planned. Move my paint out of the way. And I'm going to just make it come out on this side a little bit more. Okay. So I'm just drawing half of a sun, and that's all I'm gonna do for that. I'm gonna go straight for yellow, I'm not cleaning off my brush. I'm just gonna go around it. And I wanna follow that same flow of movement. So I want to follow that curved edge there. I'm going to go a little bit further out. because the darker colors will overtake your lighter colors. And then if you want to blend this out, you might want to wipe off your brush some so it doesn't overpower it. And then you're just gonna blend them together so it has a smooth transition. Just make sure you're going in that same flow. Next, we're gonna be doing some orange. So you don't even have to clean off your brush. So we're just gonna grab some yellow, a little bit of red, this is a nice middle orange. So I will paint this on to my next layer. And then before I'm gonna just dry off my brush a little bit because I don't want all that orange on there. I'm just gonna blend these two together. So you can go up into it a little bit to have some streaks of that orange, bring that yellow down, and just have a smooth blend. Okay. Next, I'm gonna do a dark orange. So I'm gonna take more yellow. And I'm moving in a little bit fast pace. That's just because while these colors are wet, it makes it easier to blend. This is looking good. I'm gonna just make it a little bit more on the red side, a little more orange. That looks really good. So I wanted to have kind of a fall vibe. I know fall's coming around the corners very soon. Oh yes, that's really good. I'm gonna make this one come out a little bit more because I really want that orange to show. Okay, and then like before, I'm just gonna dry off my brush a little bit. And I'm gonna blend those two together. Bring it up a little bit. Bring that yellow down. Okay, next I'm just gonna go straight into the red. If you don't want to go full red yet, you can add another bit of red to your orange. So if you're using that larger canvas, that might be good for another transitional color. I'm just gonna paint this and then I will make it flow in those brush strokes. There we go. So this was a nice, easy sunset, I think. Let me know in the comments below if I went too fast. That way I can learn and make this a more enjoyable video for you. If you have any painting themes you'd like to see, leave a comment below. Be sure to like and subscribe to my channel, like this video. That way I know that you are enjoying this and that you want to see more. So like before, I'm gonna just wipe off some of this excess paint from my brush, and I'm gonna just blend these two together. So I'm just gonna drag that red up a little bit and bring that orange down. Drag that red up a little bit, bring that orange down. That looks pretty good, guys. And then if you have any where you want to blend a little bit more, you can just get your brush a little wet, and that should help. If you don't make it too wet, otherwise it will wipe off the paint almost. This is acrylic paint and it is wet right now, so just be careful. We're gonna let this dry for a little bit, and then I'm going to add in some white little cloud. That's optional. If you really want to make it a thin cloud, you want to add it while it's wet. If you want to make it a fluffy cloud, you can wait till the paint is dry and use the dry brush technique, where you dry your brush off, dip it in the paint, wipe it off, and then just smudge it around. I am gonna do the thin cloud technique because it is fall. It doesn't feel like happy fluffy clouds as much. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of lighten it up, and it also brings more shades to your scheme here. So I'm just gonna put some white blobs kind of in different places. And then since I touched the red last, I'm just gonna go ahead and do the red. So you're just gonna go with the motion of that, the flow of how we're going. And you see how I added that white? It's like almost a pink. So I'm gonna go and dry off my brush, and I'm gonna do that to the orange. So it just helps, it looks kind of like a cloud, but it can also add just another dimension to your lines here. And if you don't want to clean off your brush all the way, that you don't have to, if you want to have that color brought in. So this just helps bring more dimension. So if you really like it, you can do another spot, brush it in, have a little cloud. It's all up to you what you want it to do. Did notice I forgot to paint this little corner up here. There we go. So now we're just gonna let this dry. The next step, this is our sunset. You don't have to make it anything too fancy. This simple scene will be just enough. We kind of want to focus our attention on the front of the painting anyways. We're going to be having some dark branches, and we're going to draw some birds. So like a lot of people, well, for me, the first thing I thought of was, well, let me draw the number of birds of my family members. So if you're giving this as a gift, that's a really cool idea. As you can see, it didn't take too terribly long to do this sunset. You don't have to do the yellow to red. You can do white to pink to purple, or light pink to dark purple. You can do white, light blue to dark blue. You can do a nighttime scene with some greens and blue. Add some stars. That'd be really pretty. You don't have to do this exact color scheme. That's what makes it so nice. And the different seasons, you can add different leaves. For winter, I would probably not do any leaves on the branches since a lot of leaves have fallen. And then for spring and summer, you can add some flowers to your branches. Since this is more of a fall feel, I'm just gonna do normal leaves. Since they're silhouette leaves, you don't have to add color to them unless you really want to. The color from the background will kind of create an optical illusion of the colors that are coming from those silhouettes. And so we're just waiting for this to dry right now. there will be more paintings coming out on my YouTube channel. I'm trying to figure out a regular schedule right now. And then in the future, I would love to do other sort of crafts as well. So if you love painting, if you love making, if you love creating, this would be a great YouTube channel for you to watch along with, or do projects beside me. And hopefully this channel will grow, and I'm sure it will. So hopefully I'm able to show you guys some tips and tricks of how I do things, and ways for you to just be creative and maybe try something new. This is fairly inexpensive. I got this canvas for about $2 on sale, and then each of these paints are all over the place. You can Google where these are being sold at, and they're about $3 a big jug, or you can get the tiny ones for about 50 cents to $1, and this one's only gonna need 4 colors. So this whole project will probably cost you about $10, and this one is not that long. So it'll probably just be, I don't know, 30 to 40 minutes, which is really good, especially since we just painted this whole background. So I'm gonna try to like fan this. If you tilt it, if you see any glossiness, it means it's still wet. You can touch it with your fingers to see if it's wet, but then you're gonna get a fingerprint. So I don't really recommend that method. I just recommend tilting it and seeing where it's at. I don't know if you can see on your end if the glossy shine to it. This whole area up here is dry. I just got some lines in here. So if you have a blow dryer, you can use it. And this is acrylic paint, so it does dry fairly quickly, which is something I really, really like. I'm just gonna let it dry for a little bit more. And then we're going to use the same exact brush, but if you're using that big 16 by 20 canvas, the next brush you're gonna wanna use is that medium brush, the one that we are using, that 3/4 inch, 19 millimeters, sorry. Because the branches we're gonna do a little different. We're gonna just kind of come in, and as we get narrow and narrow, we're gonna turn our brush. But I'll explain that once we get started. So you didn't even need to use this much paint. I didn't realize I forgot how little my canvas was, I guess. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pour my black paint while I wait for this to dry. We're not gonna need a whole lot at all. Whoops. Like I said, my paint is drying out because I have had it for over a month. As you can see, this paint lasts a long time because there's so much, and your canvas just, it doesn't absorb, like it absorbs it, but it doesn't eat it, if that makes sense. So I'm just gonna wait. It's almost dry. I have just the bottom section left to dry. Let's grab some paper and just help fan it down, make it a faster process for us. And I do have a basic shape of the bird. I'm gonna go over how I drew this so that way you know how to do yours as well. If you feel like any of your colors got lost, like if you realize, oh man, I put too much orange on there, and you want to add it in, you can do that. You can do it when it's still wet, when it's dry, whatever. Just before you go to the branches, you need to make sure your canvas is completely dry. Mine is so close. I got like 2 spots here, right where I want the branches to be. So I'm gonna go over how I doodled this little bird. So let me get a baby brush here, dry it off. So I tried to find simple shapes to kind of help guide us. So I'm imagining this line as a branch, And I actually do the bird without the branch. It doesn't really matter. But first we're gonna do kind of like an egg shape. And then we're gonna do a circle. And then his tail's kind of like a triangle without the tip. You can add a tip. You can also make it fan out. You can add a beak. You don't have to add a beak. I added a beak just to see what it would look like. The nice thing is you don't have to add feet or feathers or wings unless you really want to. If you want to add some shadowing to it or not, it's totally up to you. But this is the basic shape I found to be the easiest for me to draw and explain for you guys. So my canvas is dry now. I'm going to wipe off this extra water, make sure my brush is nice and clean, and take a dab of black. All right, so first you want to just envision, where do you want your branches to come from? Do you only want them to come from one side? Do you want them to come from both sides? How many branches do you want? How many birds do you want? So the first one I'm going to do is a big one coming from this side across, and then I'm going to be doing two smaller branches that may or may not go all the way across. Here I got some water dripping off of this. Okay, so you're gonna start off, so I want my birds to be in the middle. You're gonna start off with your brush like this. I would probably go a little right below the halfway, and a tree branch isn't straight. It's gonna have a little bit of bounce, but not too bumpy. So we're gonna start, and we're just gonna let our brush do the work. Turn your brush so it gets thinner and thinner. And it looks like I need to get a little bit more. So you see how riggedy that is? If you add water to your brush, it'll really help your paint glide. I personally like this riggedness, and I'm just gonna let it be. I'm gonna make it a little bit thicker so my birds have somewhere to sit. And I think that looks pretty good. I'm gonna make this a little bit thicker. You don't have to be straight up. You can have your branches coming in from an angle. And then just to add a little bit more character to this, I'm gonna have another little twig coming down. Maybe I'll have something else later. So you can also just bring this down. You can kind of just do whatever. Just make it consistent. So I'm gonna have the birds right here. Then I'm gonna have another branch come in. I'm gonna make this one shorter. So maybe I'll come from an angle. Little rickety twig branch. So you see how I'm just turning that brush to get narrower and narrower. And then I'm just gonna get the tip of my brush wet again, and I'm just gonna add another little twig there. Anywhere you want to add a branch is where you can add a branch. That's the nice thing. You can have them overlap if you want, so you can have one coming over here, and it just overlapped. And you don't have to have the whole branch come out. That's the nice thing too. And I'm gonna add just one more like this over here. I think that looks pretty good. So you can have your birds on different branches, you can have them on the same, and it doesn't really matter. Like if you really, really want to, you can have this kind of coming out from the back, just to help change that up a little bit. And I'm gonna make this kind of swoop down a little bit more, give some shape to that twig. Now if this was a winter scene, I'd probably do a little bit more of these smaller twigs. Or something to make it more winter feel. But since we're gonna be adding some leaves, I didn't feel like that was needed. So I'm gonna let that dry for a little bit so we can add our birds. Let it dry. And we're gonna be using the small brush next. All right, I think that's pretty good. So let's get that smaller brush now. Wipe off that extra water. Let's draw our birds. If you want to use your baby brush, you can. That's totally fine. So you gotta figure out where do you want your birds and how many birds do you want. So I think I'm just gonna do 2 birds. I'm gonna have them sitting beside each other. And so the first thing you want to do is kind of draw an oval. So kind of make a height of where you want the top of the body to come. And just kind of make an oval or an egg almost. Fill it in. And you want the bottom of that oval to hit that branch. Then you can go ahead and add your tail. So you just kind of do that. You just kind of do what we did with the branches, but don't make a point. You can add a point if you want. It doesn't have to be exactly straight, but preferably straight as possible. And then the head, we're going to draw kind of like a circle, but we're going to start it a little bit below. So we're just going to draw a circle. And I'm gonna go and draw the other bird, and then I'll think if I want to add beaks. I think I will. They're gonna have to be talking to each other. They're gonna be sitting side by side, a little romantic sunset view. So this bird's a little bit slanted because he's sitting on a little bit of a dip here. We're going to start right here and draw another little oval. So I want this one to be maybe a little bit shorter. And just draw a nice little oval. You can make them a fat bird, a skinny bird. It's just a happy little bird. I'm gonna add a little tail. So since this guy's body is over a bigger branch, I'm not really worried about how long that tail comes out from, like as long as this one. If you want to make that flatter, you can. It's whatever you want to do. Oh, I forgot the head. Let's not forget the head of the bird. So you want to start a little bit lower. And I like to just turn my brush in a circle. Something like that. There we go. Two happy little birds. If you want to add more birds, you can. You want to have little baby birds for your children. You can definitely do that. I'm going to go ahead and dry this, wipe this off. I'm going to get one of my baby brushes next to do the beaks. And then I'm going to draw some leaves. So like I said, you can do flowers. You can just leave it as is. So I'm just gonna go in here and just add some little leaves to my branches. And to do that, you just have a little stick come out and you make like a teardrop. With a little point at the end. Remember, the further away a branch is, the smaller the leaves will be. Now you don't have to add little leaves, but you can. You can also add flowers. And you don't even have to have the full leaf showing. It could be the back side of a leaf from the other side. You can do little ovals. I was gonna do, you can have some of them in piles of 2. Have some close together. Since this is the fall, my tree isn't going to have too many branches. Too many leaves. Just going to sprinkle them in here. I think that's pretty good. I'll maybe add one right here. And then maybe I'll add some beaks. So this little guy is gonna be chirping and be like, hey, how you doing? And this one's gonna be like, hi, I love you. And you can even draw a little heart. And there we go. So this was actually a cute little fun painting. I really enjoyed something like this. It's very simple. You can make it your own very easily. There's not really a wrong way to do this. And so I'm gonna just go ahead and sign my name. And I hope this was very fun for you as well. Thanks for watching.